So you should have on your table a little bookmark. So you can keep this in your books. That way, if you forget, like when we meet, you won't show up like last Saturday or next Saturday or whatever. So you'll have this, and then we have our little declaration on the back. So we're going to start off with that. You guys ready? Can you guys all read it? Okay. It's like with my students, right? Like we're doing the flag salute, at school, and third period, and everybody stands. I'm salute, pledge, and I'm the only one saying it. I'm like, what do you got? Don't make me do this, but I really feel like they don't know it.
They don't.
So I'm going to get a poster made.
Good.
So.
Go to GW. They have.
Oh, do they? Okay.
Just go to GW.
So yeah, if you want to stand, that's good. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And you don't have to say it, but we encourage you to say it.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. We commit to create just like our Creator, to see ourselves the way God sees us, to believe in who He says we are as artists, writers, and storytellers, to partner with the Holy Spirit in our kingdom assignments that will change the world. We commit to honor, respect, and build one another up in love. Our stories are continuing works needing revisions, critiques, and polishing. We commit to creating a safe space for all to imagine freely, believe wildly, and dream without limits. Freedom and breakthroughs will come from our stories. Our greatest stories are now, even greater ones are coming. We are kingdom writers. All right. Woohoo! Cool. Well, thanks.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, welcome everybody. We're going to start off with a celebration. We have a celebration. In fact, it's part of our freedom and breakthroughs will come from our stories. Okay? So we have our first KWA member published book. Roger. So this is really cool. And at some point I'll let him maybe talk a little bit about it, but we're actually going to use part of this as our talk today. So we just want to celebrate Roger. And do you want to talk a little bit about how you came up with this or what the purpose of it is?
I can. Am I on now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh my goodness. Would you prefer to be up there?
No, wherever you feel comfortable.
I'm always relaxed.
Well, how about for this?
Yeah, I got a microphone right here. It'll pick up.
You do not need me. The cute part was, oh man, what's it been, a year ago?
Yeah, about a year ago.
Strange cowboy was trying to convince me I could be writing. And I had this wonderful idea to write.
Oh.
Yes, I'm sorry. Dewey had inspired me. And the problem was, I still have envisioned in my head a lovely series of 3 graphic novels designed for tweens. Unfortunately, as I tackled the project, I realized I have the story, I have the storyboards in my head, I have the text, everything except the skills to put it on paper. So my little graphic comic kind of faded because I realized even though I have programs and stuff to do it, I couldn't pull it off. But I knew I got stuff in my head. The weird part was, as I was working over at the garden, I had a chance to work with the kids there, and the deal was in this one, I got 2 cute little opening stories in my book that I think we'll discuss. One of them I don't want to spoil your fun.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
But the idea was there was a situation where a pastor of mine's father back in the 1800s made this trek as a tween that was kind of impressive. And I would guarantee there's no one in this room that would allow their child to do that. But they did, and it was standard operating procedure because the next year he made another trek quite similar. And so the deal was, I thought, somehow we have diluted childhood and allowed to be a thing with electric phones and a lot of free time as opposed to responsibility. And so what I did was I put together a little book that's based, it's got a lot of scripture, a lot of little bushcraft skills, and an idea for responsibility. But I thought, you know what, I think it's kind of, what would be Awanas and Boy Scouts, and you kind of threw that in a blender. Okay. And so the crack up part is, I've got these little 4th, 5th, and 6th graders over there in the garden that are eating this stuff like candy. and they come in memorizing scripture, and they're dying to try out these things with their hands, and it's so much fun to see them putting their minds and their hands together and coming up with some skills. And of course, in the meantime, I'm reinforcing the responsibility and to be the idea of the little book title is The Guardian Vanguard. The idea to be leaders in the church and responsible for folks around them. So it's worked out as a wonderful little catalyst for these guys. And so I've had it was a kind of a means to an end and just fun to do. And so the real credit and celebration is the cowboy up front here, because he inspired me to put it on paper. And once he got me started, it just fell in my head onto the paper. And so it was a lot of fun. And I should say, Wednesday nights now at 6:30 is a lot of fun, because I got some kids that are going through this thing, having a great time, and drawing closer to God, and becoming more responsible kids. So it's kind of fun.
Very cool. Awesome. Woo! It's a win. It's a win for Roger. It's a win for us. So, and for the kids, right? And it's it's a self-published thing, but this is what it's all about right here, right? It doesn't have to be this famous book that sells millions. It has to be a book that impacts you, changes people's lives, and brings the kingdom. So we're gonna come back to this. So it's been on my heart to kind of share with you guys about screenwriting, because so when I read this, I mean, I see things visually, right? And I'm like, oh, this could be a movie, right? So we're gonna talk about that today, because some of you guys may be writing stories, and it may work as a novel, it may work as something else, or it could work as a movie, right? So I'm going to introduce you guys to screenwriting format, because this is what I teach my students. So, thank you. All right, my helper, my assistant. I always pass things out. So we're just gonna talk a little bit about the format, and this is what I give to my students. And we're going to talk about the format, and then I'm going to read a section from Roger's book, and then we're going to do a little writing activity. Everybody got one?
Do you have something else you want me to pass out?
No. This is so. I just want to show you this. Take a look up here real quick. This is a full screenplay of a movie called Deja Vu. Anybody ever seen it? It's from 2004. Denzel Washington, Jim Caviezel.
Jesus is in it?
Yeah. It's one of my favorite movies, but when I was reading about it, the screenwriter didn't like how the director did the movie, but I loved it. I thought it was a kingdom movie. So I just brought it, and you guys can maybe thumb through it if you want. But Bill Marcelli and Terry Rossio. Terry Rossio.
How did you get a hold of it?
He knows something.
I don't know. I found it somewhere and just downloaded it and made a copy.
I see. Okay.
So, yeah. I wanted to watch the movie and read along with the script to see how close it followed, and it was pretty close. There's a few things in there like, oh, that's not in the movie. I'm like, oh, so they cut it out. But I just wanted to show you what a full feature-length screenplay looks like. So,
Is it printed on both sides, or is that singles?
usually I print it on both sides just to save paper, but
I was getting a picture of how fat it is.
yeah. So I think.
How many pages is it, Dewey?
Oh yeah. So we're going to talk about it. So this one is.
I'm surprised it's not bigger.
128. So we'll talk in there about screenplay stuff. So let's take a look at your worksheet there. How to write a screenplay, script, and screenwriting tips. So I like this because it's broken down into the chunks. So let's look at the top there. It says fade in. Let me back up a little bit. So most screenwriters use a program like Final Draft, or I think there's a list in here. I use Final Draft. There's Movie Magic, Screenwriter, Movie Outline, Montage. I think there's Cell Text is free online, and but most of them format it for you. But this paper, if you want to venture out and try to format it yourself, they're pretty strict in the industry about the format being exactly. But most of them start off with this: you fade in. Okay, and so The little bubble there tells you like the first item on the first page should be the words fade in. Okay. Then right below that, this is really the main thing. Step number 1 is your scene heading. And you have to tell your audience, where does this take place, right? A location and time of day of the scene. So EXT means exterior, then writer's store is the location, and then the time of day. Everybody got that? So usually it's going to be either exterior or interior. If it's interior, so if we were to write a scene, it would be interior, vessels of honor, day, right? And we would write a scene in here. Okay, so you go to the right side of the page, action. So this is the narrative description of the events of a scene. Okay, and the key here is you have to write it in present tense as it's happening right now, right? So this one says, in the heart of West Los Angeles, a boutique shop's large open sign glows like a beacon. Right, so you have to try to picture in your mind. Okay, so this is a exterior. We're at an exterior location at this writer's store, and this open sign is blinking like a beacon, kind of like Rudolph's nose, right? Then we got this transition right underneath it, dissolve to the next scene, which is interior writer's store, sales floor, day. So basically in video and film, when the camera changes the location, a different location somewhere else, that's when you put a scene heading. So now we're over here on the left side, character's first appearance. A description of the character, name should be capped. The first time your character is introduced, they should all be caps to let your audience know. So if you just kind of read that, writers browse the mini scripts in the screenplay section. So there's people walking around, right? Anthony, a Canadian-Italian story specialist extraordinaire, 30s and not getting any younger, ambles over. So where is he ambling over to? The sales floor, right? So see, in that first line, we see the character, a little bit of information about them, right? So you kind of got this picture in your head, right? Then the next section, so we got is character. So remember, we start with scene heading, then action line, then character. So the character is always in the middle of the page, and it's all in caps. And then right below that is the dialogue. So that tells you what he's saying. It says something, hey, how's everyone doing here? And then there's another action line. A writing enthusiast 45 reads the first page of The Aviator by John Logan. And then it says enthusiast, right? Can John Logan write a killer first page or what? So there's this dialogue back and forth between the two characters, right? And then, so they're talking, and then all of a sudden, the phone rings. Anthony goes to, now this is called a subheader. So this is where, like, if you don't have to do a full scene heading if it's in the same location, right? So if we're writing a scene in, well, it's kind of a small room, but let's pretend there's a bathroom there, right? And all of a sudden, I don't know, the water starts flooding out of the bathroom and somebody runs in and turns it off. So that's where you would put, like, instead of saying vessels of honor, then you might do a subheader that says bathroom, right? Which is in the same location. Does that make sense? Yeah. So they're in the same location. They're just moving over to the sales counter.
Another room in the location.
Yeah.
And it's always pointing at location. It's not, subheader always means location.
Yeah. It's kind of like a location within your bigger location. Right. Or sometimes if you're cutting back and forth to two different locations, like I think it kind of does this later on here. Like let's say you're on the phone talking with somebody at a beach house and you're cutting back and forth. Yeah. It's called an intercut. So these are just kind of like the basics. So then he answers the phone, and then so Anthony, writer's store, Anthony speaking. So that's his dialogue. And then you hear this voice. And then the little thing in parentheses, that's called a parenthetical. It's an action or attitude direction for a character. So sometimes, they're delivering a line, and you put a parenthetical in there just like explain like how to deliver that line, or to kind of help your audience understand, this is over the phone, right? And he's like, so do you have Chinatown in stock? Right? And then it cuts to interior, exterior, luxurious Malibu mansion day. And so a figure roams his estate, cell phone pressed to his ear. So you kind of know that that's who's talking, right? To the guy at the
Oh, he's the guy who's
talking to Anthony, right? And so the next one, if you look over extension, a note placed after the character's name to indicate how the voice will be heard on screen. So that so it says Anthony on screen, or sometimes it's off screen. Of course, we have Chinatown, Robert Town, blah blah blah, right? And so then this is the end of the first page, and then it will automatically put more, goes on to the next page. So if a character is continuing to talk, it will just kind of add that on. So then it goes. So we go to the bottom, or we go to the top of page 2. So it automatically puts the page number and it tells you where to put it and all that stuff. Anthony on screen continued. I mean, that or Shawshank Redemption or Network or American Beauty, yes, we do have Chinatown. And this is intercut phone conversation. Instructions for a series of quick cuts between 2 scene locations. So that's called intercut. All right, so that's kind of like the first page of a script. Does anybody have any questions on that? Yeah.
So for instance, you wrote a story, and now you want to transform that story into a screenplay. So these are the instructions of how you would break it up into making it now instructions for filmmaker to take your story and put it on film, or even putting it on stage, because it's giving instructions to the people, the actors, the directors, everyone, what needs to be taking place, what should the audience be seeing.
Right. So writing so this is kind of like what I tell my students is kind of like you have to have the structure of how a screen. I mean, you have the opening scene, and then you have the catalyst, and then you have the hero is thrust into this journey, right, that he's going on. So this is how to write it all out, but there's the whole other side of the structure. So I kind of equate it as you have to have a skeleton first, right? Your skeleton is like, your overall story. Like, okay, I have all these ideas, I have all these pieces, these scenes, and all this stuff. That's like the skeleton that you have to put together. And then the actual writing of the script is kind of like putting the organs in and putting the muscle tissue in and the flesh and the skin and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of how I describe it to my students. Does that make sense?
It does.
So some people, they outline their story first, and then they go back and write the whole script. And so if you look on the second page, we'll just kind of cover a few of these. So they use Courier 12-point font. Why do they use Courier? It's a timing issue. So one formatted script page in Courier font equals roughly to 1 minute of screen time. Okay, isn't that weird? And so if you kind of look through there, so that's why the average page of a screenplay should come between 90 and 100 pages. Comedies tend to be shorter, 90 pages or hour and a half. Dramas run a little bit longer, 120. So this one of Deja Vu is 128, right? So, yes?
A play will be a different format even from this. So a stage play will be different. It's the screenplay needs specific direction for cameras, whereas there's no cameras in the drama. So you have that.
And then aren't stage plays usually 2-act plays, or?
You can have a 1-act play, you can have lots more stage directions, and you'll have different, you won't put the dialogue person, like it has Anthony up top, the dialogue will actually stop to the left. So there's a formatting thing with drama, just like there's with screenplay.
Okay. I'm not familiar with those, so thanks. So see what else? So it says a screenplay can be an original piece based on a true story or previously written pieces, like a novel. There's lots of novels that have been made into movies, as you know, right? The third paragraph down, crucial to remember that the film is primarily a visual medium. As a screenwriter, you must show what's happening in a story rather than tell, right? A 2-page inner monologue may work well for a novel, but it's a kiss of death for a script. The very nature of screenwriting is based on how to show a story on a screen. Pivotal moments can be conveyed through something as simple as a look on an actor's face. All right, so let's see. Bottom. So the rest of this is kind of like formatting stuff. Slug line is another name for like scene heading. Sometimes they say slug line. Let's see what else. So on action, let's turn to the next page where it says action and then it's in red there. It says, remember, only things that can be seen and heard should be included in the action. This is important, and as I'm writing my stuff, I keep going back. I'm like, oh my gosh, we can't see that. I can't write that. You know, if somebody's having this conversation in their head, right, we can't see that. But you can show it through dialogue, right? You can show it and explain it through dialogue, like the person is standing up there in front of all these people, doesn't know what to say, but in his mind we hear, and then you say what it says, right? That kind of stuff. So, yeah. That's all I want. I want to give you guys this for a resource, okay?
Thank you.
And then we're going to do, so here, what's next? Everybody get a copy of this? Yes.
I just thought of something, because I didn't understand something you just said. Okay, but there are times in movies where you hear someone's thoughts, even though they're not saying it. Like that movie, What a Woman Wants. And
Oh, right.
he's voiceover. There's the word. Okay,
Yeah.
so there is such a thing as knowing what someone's thinking without seeing them say it.
Yeah. Yeah, so you would just put in their voiceover,
Okay.
right? Or, yeah, we hear his thoughts as he's thinking them, right? You would put that in the action line. We hear his thoughts as he's thinking them, and then you go to voiceover, and then, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you just have to explain to the reader how it's going to be seen or heard. And that's the key, I think, on there is I have to keep reminding myself when I write stuff. Only the things can be seen. And then the other thing, like, again, writing in present tense, right? Writers sit at round tables staring at the speaker, right? You know, it's like, so as opposed to, there are writers sitting at round tables and they're staring at the speaker. Yeah, I've noticed that when I read scripts, a lot of it is just, I mean, it's incomplete sentences, it's real short, it's to the point, it's like, and then they want them short like that. They don't want a bunch of long action line. I think the general rule is when you write action lines that you want to keep them, 2 or 3 lines. I'll pass this around in a little bit, and you can look in here. The action lines are pretty short. It's not like a bunch of long action lines. Yes, Raquel?
I have a question for you, Dewey.
Mm-hmm.
When you started writing screenplays, how long did it take you to get comfortable with having to shift your format into something like this? Because obviously you write stories. For you, like, was it pretty quick, or once you get into it, is it easier, or?
I took a few classes online, and I was an okay writer in general before that, but it kind of seemed like it was pretty natural. It was the challenging part is like when your scene happens. Like, okay, so I wrote Up the River, which is a story. My log line is a young immature rainbow trout is betrayed by his plotting brothers, left for dead. A series of unfortunate situations brings him or causes him to question whether he can save his species from the drought, the terrible drought, right? That's kind of like my log line, which is my general story of my thing. So a lot of my scenes happen above the water, below the water, at the water level. And so it was hard for me to really I was trying to visualize, okay, so this eagle's flying over the water. Okay, so that's exterior, sky, day. And then she dives down to the water, and then it goes under the water. So you have to try to visualize, okay, where are these scenes taking place? Is this scene going to be under the water? Is this scene going to be above the water? So there's a little bit of adjustment to that. But if you're just writing a Western about a couple kids that are on this journey to take some cattle from Texas to Arizona, there won't be a lot of, I mean, most of it's probably going to be exterior, right? So depending on how really involved your story is, will depend on like how well you adjust, I guess. Does that make sense? So I would say keep it simple first. You know, I'm teaching my students just a couple locations, right? Just 2-3 locations max. Tell your story and write it out, and you know, don't be so I don't know, like make sure it's realistic, right? That you can actually go film it. That's the other thing too in the industry is if you write this elaborate story that is like going to be really, really, really costly to produce, that's always in the back of producers' minds, right? So
Unless you're James Cameron.
yeah, exactly. Exactly, yeah. James Cameron.
Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
Yeah.
Let's go to New Zealand for that. James Cameron, they had to create Avatar from like nothing. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that was it's like one of the most expensive movies ever.
And nowadays, so much of it is all CGI computer generated stuff. It's like,
Look at what they're called, Avengers and all that stuff. It's all
Yeah.
CGI.
yeah. So I'm kind of curious to see if it's less expensive nowadays because a lot of that stuff's created digitally, and you don't have to send a whole crew over to Europe to film this one scene. You can do a lot of it in front of green screen and stuff. So, okay, so we're gonna do a little activity here. So now that you know, oh yes.
I was gonna say this, that it's interesting. I'm glad that you brought this up because it helps me, because of the stories that I'm writing that I know in my heart, they really, it's a story to be told on the screen, either by, it's not cartoons anymore, what do we say? Animation. Animation. And so this really helps me, so I appreciate it.
Well, good, yeah. That's what it's supposed to.
This helps me, thank you.
So I want to read just the opening here of Roger's book. We're going to use Roger's book as as our inspiration to doing this activity. So I want you to visualize this in your head as I read this. So it starts off with the physical history behind starting the Vanguard. My old pastor told me the story of his father as a young boy in the 1800s after the Civil War. I'll call him Sam since he never mentioned his dad's name. Sam had to deliver a herd of cattle, nearly 100 head, to the market since his father was away on business for their family ranch. The family lived in West Texas. Sam's older brother would help him. Their mother would stay home and waited for her sons and husband to return while she took care of the ranch. So Sam and his brother gathered their gear, placed it on horseback, and headed off to deliver the cattle. Two small problems existed. First, the market was in Arizona, about 500 miles away. The second problem was that Sam was 10 and his older brother was 11. Apparently, it really was not a problem to the young boys since the two brothers set off with their herd to make sure they delivered it on time. Well, believe it or not, the brothers made their delivery, sold the herd, and headed home to the family. However, another problem cropped up while they were away from home. Due to a severe drought, the parents were forced to sell the ranch and move to Oklahoma. Sam's mother left word with a neighbor where they were moving. Unfortunately, the drought forced the neighbor to move as well. Living on their own horseback, the brothers used the money they sold the cattle to stay fed. They played detectives and eventually found their family in Oklahoma 6 months later. It seems that times have changed since the 1800s, and tweens just are not given the responsibilities they once were. Not just responsibilities, but the simple life skills are no longer given to handle one's self when in a pinch. This manual is designed to give you some basic skills, philosophy. It kind of goes on to explain what the book is all about. But this opening scene, right? Can you guys picture that in your head as a movie, right? I mean, I think it's. I was reading this. I told Roger. I said, "You need to make this into a movie."
Well, the best part for me is it really happened.
Yeah.
It's a true story.
True story. So I would like Roger to share with me a little bit about when the boys got to Arizona, what happened there? Because you didn't put.
That was one little segment there. That story. The next year, Sam and a nearby buddy made kind of the same trek to New Mexico and took another couple hundred head of herds there. When they got to the town in New Mexico, the local sheriff met them outside of town and said, "Boys, I can't have you coming in this town. It's too rough." He said, "What I'm going to do is I'm going to lead you in today. We'll sell your head of herd. I'm going to bring you right back out here. You'll camp overnight, and then you're going to head home." And so it was interesting. I found that the second little story that it was tough back in those days too, and he was not going to allow an 11 and 12-year-old to wander back into this rough New Mexico town because of the ne'er-do-wells and the everyday happenings there. So again, if someone liked the story, I can put you in touch with the grandson and you get more pieces, but I will not be running this masterpiece, one of you may.
So that could be the sequel to the next movie or the next book, right?
I can incorporate it, again, poetic license, but
Yeah. Well, so what I just read, I have for you on paper. And then, so what I want you guys to do is, based on a little of what you know about screenwriting, write the opening scene of Sam and his brother in screenplay format. Your opening image, right? So your opening image should tell us a little bit where we are, exterior preferably. Introduce us to the hero, the sidekick. Your first scene needs to show us life as it is before the movie gets going. So maybe think about what the opening scene might be with Sam and his brothers before they're heading off to sell this cattle. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Think you guys can do it?
Yeah.
All right. So here, I'll pass them out. So this is so up at the top. This is size 12 Courier font, by the way. The story of that, and then the assignment is at the bottom.
Would you like some paper?
Yeah. If anybody needs paper, I got notebooks back here too. There's some notebooks.
So I get my
David,
notebooks.
morning. How you doing?
Morning, Dewey. That's how I get my notebooks now. I just come here.
Dewey, do you know Larry?
I don't think so.
Larry, this is Dewey.
Hi, nice to meet you. How do we know Larry?
He goes to the collaborative that I teach at.
Oh, okay, yeah, awesome. Cool. Thanks for coming. I think there's two there.
He's written a book already too.
Already published.
'Cause he was,
Oh, yeah.
He was a Bible
I think I did meet. Were you at the bookstore?
Bibles.
You were at the bookstore when she was there?
Yeah, sat right
Did everybody
beside
get
her.
one? Okay, yeah. That's where I saw you. Good morning. You want a copy, Buffy? All right, so we'll just take about, let's take about 10 minutes to do this. You think is that too short, too long?
That's fine. That's too
Is that
short.
too short?
It's too short, but you know.
Is that good? Okay.
I have
Well, we'll just
baby.
see how it goes. All right. Well, was that fun for you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah? Maybe challenging a little bit? One thing we didn't do before that, which maybe we should have, we could have, is kind of brainstorm a little bit talk about Sam and his brother. What do you think? I think if this is based on a true story, right, you wanted to kind of do the research of your characters and just kind of try to get as much information about them as possible because it will help you write their stories and write their dialogue. But So, when I read this, I was thinking like, okay, well, so you got the dad who's away on business, the mom's home taking care of the ranch, and these two kids got to take these cattle, right? So it's this typical family thing. So what are the, usually your hero has to go on this journey, right? And usually they come across a problem. So they're one way at the beginning of the story. They come across this problem. They have to make a choice, right? And then through this journey, they call that the character arc. How are they different at the end, right? What have they learned? Who have they become, right? So you kind of have to think as you're writing a little bit about them at the beginning, kind of show your audience maybe a little, are there insecurities? Are there fears? Are there, what is it that kind of gives us a glimpse of like a 10 and 11-year-old boy who's got to do this? Part of it is like, well, they're pretty mature, right? If they've been raised in this and they've been doing this, they've been chasing the cattle across the ranch, but now they have to like extend that experience across 500 miles, right? So maybe what is the theme kind of behind your story? And Wendy was asking me a question, and it just kind of, I think this is why we get together and brainstorm and kind of help each other with our stories. I was thinking it could be a journey of faith, right? Because think about this. Their father is away on business. He's not present with them, yet he has taught them everything they need to know to do this. And so they have to like go on this journey, right, to live life and to do this and hopefully see their father in the end, right? Isn't that our journey, right? With our father. So there's kind of like an underlying theme, and you could just kind of bring those elements into the story. So does anybody want to like share what they wrote with the group? Okay, Heather, yeah.
I could.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was great fun, and I love the story, so thank you, Roger. Okay, we're going to fade in. We're at an exterior barnyard day.
Louder.
Oh, a little louder. Okay. Fade in, exterior barnyard day. On the open prairie, a cattle rancher's weathered barn stands sentinel over a round corral. Cut to interior barn tap room. Two boys work deftly filling saddlebags with provisions and gear. Sam, a wiry 10-year-old, glances toward his brother's bag to check its contents, then looks back at his own. Sam: Charles, what say we share some of this gear between us to lighten the load? I'll take a hoof pick, you take a brush, pack a brush. Charles: not a bad idea, Sammy. Charles removes a hoof pick from his saddlebag. He looks pensive. Sam, remember that day last summer when we took Ma to visit Aunt Vi? Sam nods his head. Charles: that was a 50-mile trip. We did it in 2 days. This business we're about right now, it's just the same. But we're doing it 10 times. We're just going to do the math, pack up, plan water stops best we can, and put one foot in front of the other. Sam, relief spreads across his face. Don't look at my formatting.
No, I'm not. I'm just standing close to you so the mic can pick you up.
Okay.
All right. Good job.
That is cool.
That is way cool, Heather.
Anybody else? All right, David.
I just wrote whatever came into my head. So I'm sure I followed the format completely. We'll see what happens.
That's fine, yeah.
So I've got fade in. Let's write it down. Introducing Sam and Teddy. I called his brother Teddy. Okay. Sam is out with the cattle who are grazing in the field. Picture pans as if someone is watching, stalking them. Scene flashes back between Sam tending to his cattle, talking to them by name, and he mentions about some mountain lions in the area. Shot flips to eyes of the stalker who is approaching slowly closer to Sam, using the cattle as a shield. Audience wonders what this predator or someone might be. Sam starts to feel suspicious that someone is watching, keeps looking round, but sees no one. And suddenly there's a big roar, and Sam's brother Teddy leaps out of nowhere and scares Sam half to death. Teddy is laughing hard. Sam is displeased at first, but jabs back at Teddy with his staff. Teddy says, "You need some help, little brother?" And that's as far as I got.
Very good, yeah. So Charles, Teddy is the brothers. Yeah. Yeah, so that's good. I like how you kind of lead your audience into thinking like, oh, he's getting ready to get attacked by a mountain lion, but it's really his brother, right? It's kind of adds that suspense. And then just, so it's kind of challenging writing like this, right? I think there was a line you said, he starts to do something, right? So we want to kind of avoid that. You just say what he does. Like he runs and jumps behind and leaps on his brother, right? So, yeah, anybody else? Wendy.
Okay. You named the other brother Charles?
I did.
I named him Charlie.
Right on.
There you go.
Okay, fade in. Scene is interior. It's a kitchen in a small wooden cabin in West Texas. And the action is a woman preparing breakfast, and two boys are rushing around getting ready, and they sit at the table. Sam, hurry up, Charlie. We got to get going before sunup. And Charlie, yep, but we got to eat first. And then the mother, she comes in, she puts 2 plates down on the table. Here you are, thick steak, eggs, and biscuits.
Yeah.
I packed a bag of supplies to carry. It ought to get you to Arizona. So that's the first scene. Then fade out into the next scene. And it's outside, and it's a wide view of the ranch. There's cattle, jostling, mooing. It's dusty, the dust is kicking up, and the sun is just rising. Just rising. So and the action, you hear Sam and Charlie hollering at the cattle. Whoop, whoop, yeah, yeah. So they're starting to get them going. And this is widescreen. You see the roundup, all the cattle, and 2 boys heading out. The close-up is the mother. She's standing at the front of the house, the cabin, and she's waving to the boys as they head out. And then there's a next close-up, and it's her face. And the action, you can see in her face, there's tears in her eyes, and she's praying. She says, God, watch over my babies. She's calling them babies. Watch over my babies. They're so young. They're not men yet. They have to grow up too soon. Help my boys. Protect them. Make them strong. I can already see that they're brave. And that's it. That's as far as I got.
Awesome.
So that's
Yeah, so when you're writing so that's the exterior scene, right? So maybe, did you put in there like where the boys were? Were they like in the field or the ranch?
Outside, yeah, they're rounding up the cattle. So they're shouting and yelling at the cattle.
And then we cut to the mom.
Then
So
we cut to the mom.
that's a great place for like a subheading, and you just type porch, right?
Okay, porch.
Like you just type porch, and then and then it cuts to the porch, and then the mom is there, right?
Okay, subhead.
And then I think like the cinematographer's job is to like get all the different shots.
Yeah.
So we want to try to avoid like writing close up. Well, you can put that close up on mom, or you can just simply say, if you say like a tear drips down the mom's face, right? Then they'll know that they got to get a close up to get that shot as she, begins her prayer or something like that. So very good, awesome. One more. Anybody? No, that's fine.
I can, but...
Okay, yeah. This from the author.
I watched Silverado. The opening scenes are all great. But anyway, so...
That's not a problem.
It is.
Yeah. We got to hear from the author. The author's the screenplay version from the author.
I'll give you a different perspective. Right in desert landscape, Dave. Drone shot pans low over herd of longhorn cattle moving across the desert. Cut to 2 boys on horseback behind the herd, moving them towards the west. Sam, 10-year-old boy on horseback, leans to a brother nearby. Sam, pick up that stray and bring her back in. 500 miles be easy if they'll just stay together. Mark, 11-year-old on horseback, spurs his steed, reels about, and gallops off towards a lone longhorn. Intercut. Rattlesnake rattles as Mark rides past. Cut. Longhorn near cactus nibbling on grass as cowboy rides up from a distance. Cut to a close-up Mark. Shrill whistle. Come on, cow. Back over to the herd. Opening score and titles.
Nice. Very good.
Yeah, we'll do the flashback and bring Mama in, but that's
Yeah. Yeah, so as you guys are all reading, I'm trying to like think like, okay, what are these boys like? You know, typically they're going to be pretty different, right? Maybe one might be an extrovert, one might be an introvert, right? And they're going to go on this journey together, and one's going to have insecurities about something where the other one won't, and vice versa. So all that stuff, you have to think about it and develop it into your characters and everything. So that's all we have for like as far as instruction. I want to kind of give you guys an update. So we, back when did we do this? Like last year. Our goal was to try to create a collaborative book for our KWA, and so we got your submissions. We had our July deadline. We got submissions from you and
Karen Moravich too.
Yeah, you and Karen and Julie, and we got submissions from a lot of people, and our vision leads went through it, but unfortunately it's not enough to make a book yet. So when we had this idea, we were thinking, yeah, we should make a collaborative book like Writers of Kern did, and but hey, we're just a baby infant group, so I'm thinking, okay, so when I saw this, I thought, yeah, let's do it, but maybe it's for later in the future, right? I see a lot of things in the future, right, that are maybe futuristic, that, oh, this is what I see, but we're not maybe quite there yet. So I think we're going to wait till we get more writings. Hopefully some of this stuff that you guys wrote today will show up, that would be a great piece of a collaborative book. So.
But you wouldn't want it in the format of a screenplay. No.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah. Yeah, like a short story, kind of like what Roger did, right? So yeah, so that's the update on that. Anything else? We got bookmarks for you guys to take and share.
Ultimately, you're going to open up the deadline again and ask.
Yeah, we'll talk about it with our Vision Leads group and see what we think. It's just not enough to make a book yet, right? The power of yet. So yeah, feel free to keep these ideas, because one of the sections is our Saturday writing prompt, if that's something you want to submit. Do you guys have anything to say about that? Anybody back there? Debbie, Wendy, Buffy?
I can say, that I think our hearts are full of ideas and things that we want to share. Our skillfulness and how we share it, we need to work on, I think. And I'm grateful for what you did with us this morning. This is totally educational for me. I mean, when I was in high school, we read plays, and you read the script and so forth. And so now, the process of taking an idea and putting it down in an order that other people who don't know what's in your head, but now they'll know what the ideas that you have, so that they can reproduce it. I think it's good. This helps me. I hope it helps everybody else.
Good, yeah.
But, I appreciate that. But I could see we need some work.
Yeah. So our Saturday gatherings probably won't be much like. I mean, I wanted to share with you guys like the screenwriting stuff, because that's kind of where my heart and my passion is. And we have the KWA Screenwriters group that meets the second Saturday of the month down in Hollywood at the First Presbyterian Church in Hollywood. I went last Saturday, and I would have invited some other people, but we ended up going to the Rams Chargers game that night and stayed the night. So I didn't have extra tickets, and we didn't have room for anybody. But
was that also birthed by Bray and Jill Wyckoff?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's a Kingdom Writers Association, specifically screenwriters group.
Cool. Yeah.
So it's Anthony and Kayla. Excuse me. Anthony and Kayla Cantu. They run that.
Okay.
And they're screenwriters that live down there. So.
Right.
And they have an organization called Writer Spotlight, which it's like I just joined, so I'm just kind of getting familiar with it. But you can create your profile, you can upload your scripts, and you can meet up with other people, and you can exchange scripts, and you can leave notes and feedback on there, and producers can get on there and see, like if they're looking for an animated feature film that's family friendly, they would go to that section and just see if there's any scripts there and stuff. So,
What did they do at the meeting, Louis?
at the meeting, so it's mostly just prayer and encouragement, and then just connecting with people that are there. So I've only been. I went to the launch, and then I missed July. Was it July's meeting? And then I just went last month. So
Sounds cool.
yeah.
First Press Hollywood.
Yeah, First Press Hollywood. So I think Rosselli went and Kim went. They carpooled together up for the July meeting, which I wasn't able to go to. So, but I'm going to try to go as much as I can just to be a part of it. And if I can't make them all, it's from 1 to 3 on the second Saturday of the month. Just sharing your groups, like kind of maybe what you're working on, what your passion is, because I know we're all working on different things. But yeah, we'll just spend the rest of the time encouraging each other, sharing, and just seeing what our next steps are and what we're, yes.
For prayer, I just want to bring up something. I've never had this experience before, and maybe a lot of you have. But I finally started writing my second book, and so I am 4 days into all day working on it. And I mean, I took up the entire day just doing all the research, putting it all online, getting all the court documents. For those of you who don't know, I'm writing a story on the cornfield killer. And the crazy thing is, I started getting super sick. And I mean, not COVID, don't worry guys, I did the COVID test.
Wow.
I just felt horrible. And second day I said to my husband, I go, man, this is a spiritual thing. This is not even a normal sickness that I've ever felt. So I think that we need to remember this when we're writing too, especially when we're doing something that we know we got to get done.
Sure.
And everything's stopping it from happening.
Right, that's good. Good point. So Lord, we just want to thank you for being here with us. Thank you, God, for making your home inside of us. And as I was driving here, I was seeing how we're a lot like Abraham. You're calling us to go off our map. You're calling us to go to a place we don't know where we're going, kind of like Sam and his brother. We're walking with you on this journey of writing, being your storytellers and your scribe. And we don't know where we're going a lot of times, but like Abraham, he trusted you and he obeyed, and it was credited to him as faith. So we just thank you, Lord, for an increase in faith right now in your calling for all of us in our storytelling and our writing and what you want to accomplish with us and what we want to accomplish with you. And so we just open this time up right now, Holy Spirit, to just have your way as we pray. And we're asking for resources from heaven. We're asking for supernatural help, supernatural encounters. Give us angels, Lord, to protect us as we go on these assignments, Lord, that the enemy would not be able to penetrate, not be able to get past, but that we would have acceleration in our writing, acceleration in what you've called us to do, Lord. And so we just open this time up now as we just pray in our groups here at our tables. We just invite you to speak to us. All right.